It is the Happy Camper Radio Show, episode 234. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper, and no question about it, my friends. Hang around with us long enough, we will make a happy camper out of you. Daniel's all fired up and ready to go.
I am. One more day.
And you can go into Hawaii now.
No.
Okay.
I wish. I love Hawaii.
You got some of the strangest T-shirts, but that's okay. Daniel, on the show today, we're going to be talking to a gentleman who went on a long-distance camping trip, and I mean 8 years of on-the-road travel.
Wow,
it's going to be
interesting.
And I'll tell you what, and he's got a new book out, too. We're going to be talking to him in just a few short minutes. Episode 234 of Happy Camper Radio coming your way. Stick right around for it. And the Happy Camper Radio Show can be heard all around the world by great listeners just like yourself. You can find us in the iTunes Store and Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and now on Odyssey, Samsung, and Player FM. You can find us on the web 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and if you really want to get an up-close view of how we do the show here in the studio, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Look at that little red button down there, okay? If you see it right there, click on it right now, and you can go ahead and subscribe.
All right.
Yeah, Daniel, we've got a couple shout-outs here for the show today. Yeah, let's go ahead and knock them out first of all, right? Let's say hello to Stan Ibera of Citrus Heights, California, and also to Chris Holcomb, and he's a subscriber to our YouTube channel. Guys, I tell you what, glad to have you on board. Thank you so much for being a part of this great Happy Camper Radio family. Well, Daniel,
yeah,
you know, I bought this new RV.
I know.
And
I'm jealous.
Just yesterday, I sold my truck camper and the camper that was on it.
That was quick.
I tell you, it was kind of unexpected. I mean, these folks saw the truck and the camper sitting there. Maybe they saw the new RV and realized, hey, he don't need that anymore.
Did you advertise it?
No, I didn't. I mean,
wow,
I just happened to be away at the store or something. I came back and I got this note that was on my screen door.
That's crazy.
It says, please give us a call. We're interested.
Wow.
And I didn't think it was going to happen that fast, but yeah, we went ahead and we worked out a deal, and you know, it's not something I have to worry about fixing up.
That's nice.
Okay, I mean, they said we'll take it as is. Okay.
Wow.
You know, I feel kind of bad in a way because I did have some great years with that truck camper.
Yep.
You know, and of course I had some great years primitive camping as well. And although that didn't work out, it's a brand new day in the world of camping. And I've got a spot already picked out for my very first RV camping trip. And you know what? I'm going to keep that on ice until the next show, okay? But right now, we've got a gentleman here that he has been out on the road with his family for 8 years, Daniel, all over the country, and has been to more than 124 camping destinations.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know something? And he's got a brand new book out. Let's get him on the phone right now.
Happy Camper Radio. Happy Camper Radio.
And joining us on the program today is Michael Boyink. I hope I pronounced your name right, Michael. Did I?
Well, it's one syllable, just Boyink.
Okay. I'll tell you, we'll just go by Michael here. But anyway, I'm glad to have you on board today. Michael, you've got a brand new book out. It's called Driven to Wonder, 8 Years in an RV with 2 Kids. So you went ahead and did the full-time RV thing here for 8 years, correct?
We did. We had a 12 and a 13-year-old. We were homeschoolers already, and I had a business where my income was not location dependent. And so we kind of kicked around the idea and decided it was a go. So we launched on what was going to be a 1-year trip, and 1 year led to 3, led to 5, led to 8.
Now, did you come up with the idea of becoming a full-time camper and presenting it to your family? Was that your idea?
You know, we have tried to remember who had it first. It was either my wife or I, probably me, because I'm more the idea person usually than she is. But I grew up camping in an RV. So the idea was not totally foreign.
That's got to be a very exciting venture. And I just purchased an RV no more than 2 weeks ago. and I'm getting ready to take it out here in about another week just to break it in and enjoy the relaxation. And who knows, I just might take my show on the road. You never know. But how did go ahead?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, how did your kids react to the idea of becoming full-time campers?
Well, I've got two. My oldest was a boy, and my youngest is a girl. And the boy was excited about it, and the girl was a little less excited about it. She was the 12-year-old, and so our joke was we left with 3 travelers and 1 passenger.
Okay. Now, I had my kids camping with me for a long time, and my kids loved it when they were younger. My wife at the time, she was never into camping. She tried it once, and that was the end of that. But it's just now it's just me and my dog. My youngest one, she's on her own, and it's just me and the little one, me and my puppy dog, and she's here in the studio with me right now. Hopefully, she's going to behave herself throughout this interview. But I had an opportunity to go through your book, and I am just blown away by the vivid photographs that are in this book. And you've been to quite a few places, and I want to talk about a couple of them here because I'm familiar with them. I've been to these locations, not in a camping environment, but let's talk about your trip to Erie, Pennsylvania. Now, that sounds a little bit like my typical camping trip. Right?
Yeah.
And it was one of your first couple stops, wasn't
I believe it was our second stop. So, yeah, we were new in the RV. So I had a new-to-me truck, a new-to-me RV. I believe we had a new-to-us GPS and new-to-us phone. So we had nothing but new. And then the weather the first couple of weeks was just horrible. Rain every day. You bring up a radar and a map, and it's just one of those systems that just keeps circling around the area that you're in. And so, yeah, Erie, I apologize in the book if you're from Erie. Sorry. It kind of started in a hole, and then it didn't get any better for us. We pulled into a campground that was, let's just say it wasn't as advertised. And, we just, it was kind of a mud hole to get to the spot. And then it was our first experience with, and we learned that several parks do this. They'll have like a work camper on site that wants to guide you to your campsite. And so he's at the front of the truck trying to help me back in, and my wife is behind the RV trying to help me back in. And I'm getting what feels like conflicting signals with what to do. And, there's only one authority in that situation for a married guy. So I have to go to the work camper and say, thanks for your help, but I get to listen to her.
I understand that. And I've been to Erie on a few occasions. Of course, the weather was much nicer up there at that time than what you've experienced. But I've got to say this, and I've talked about this on the program all the time. Rain follows me wherever I go. Daniel and I just got back from a trip down in Pine Mountain, Georgia, and it rained so crazy down there. I come on back, and the rain has followed me, and it's been 2 weeks. It's been raining ever since. So, it was time to transform from tent camping to RV camping. So,
yeah, you last longer with tents than we ever would have, for sure.
Yeah, but it's been an exciting venture so far, and I'm really looking forward to getting out there. Now, another location that you have been to is Gettysburg, Pennswonia. I think that's probably a little bit more pleasant of an experience than you had in Erie, correct?
Yeah, I would say pleasant, yes, but powerful and moving. I'm not sure before we left on this trip if we could have found Gettysburg on a map. We just weren't that good at Civil War history. But that's certainly one of those places where, as homeschoolers, visiting it in person is just a radically better experience than trying to read about it from a book. So they have a guided CD-based tour that you can check out from the visitor center or buy. I forget, but you pop that in your car and it kind of narrates you as you drive around. And yeah, it was a really powerful experience to then stand where the Gettysburg address happened. But then the more interesting thing for me as a writer was as I went to write that chapter, learning that Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, the one that we all well know and remember, was not the focus of that event. He was the second speaker. He was the guy they didn't even know if he would show up. So the first speaker was kind of the keynote address, and but the folds of history, he kind of gets forgotten.
Now, things have changed quite a bit. It's been a long time. I think it was the early 80s when I was last in Gettysburg. And, yeah, they had cassette players that you checked out at that time. So CDs weren't even on the map at that particular time. But I took that tour, and, yes, it is very moving. Now, when you went out on these trips, did you have them planned far in advance, or did you, plan a couple of them and just along the way decided, hey, now we're going to move on to this destination? Hello?
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, there you go, Michael. Okay, we got you back. Yeah, I thought we lost you there for a second. Okay, go ahead.
Say, from a schooling perspective, my wife is very much a planner. She always handled the homeschooling planning activities. So early in the trip, she felt very much like before we went to a particular location, she should research it and kind of plan it out. And then the more we traveled and the longer we were on the road, we kind of shifted that thinking, and we would just go to a new place cold, like with no research, and then sort of just see what became interesting. We actually ended up doing research on the way out, because something that we saw or something that we read caught our interest. Why is that thing named that way? Well, who's that person? So we almost flipped it around where we would go in cold and then just kind of see what became interesting and then follow up that visit with more research.
Okay. Now, you also made your trip to Atlanta, Georgia, and we are a suburb just out of Atlanta, and I am very familiar with the time that you showed up here.
I'm sure you are.
Yes, this was the, I don't want to call it the blizzard, it was the ice storm. And that particular night, I know you showed up here as campers, and down here in the South, just the mention of the word snow will cause people to run to the grocery stores, clean out the bread shelves, clean out the milk shelves, buy all the batteries and flashlights they possibly can, go to the home improvement center and buy generators in some cases, and then snow never even shows up. But that's just, we've had a couple instances down here over the past many years where the city got locked down. And this particular year, I can't remember it off the top of my head. It was a few years back. But I was on my way to work, and actually, I worked the overnight shift. And when I woke up, which was like 9:30 at night, I had no earthly idea what was going on out there. And I got caught up in that traffic. And I was stranded there for at least 8 hours before I actually even made it into work. But you had a similar experience here, didn't you, when you arrived?
Yeah, so we did not have the RV with us. We had left the RV in Comer, Georgia, with some friends, and had driven home for Thanksgiving in Michigan. And on that drive home, got in a truck accident, which kind of put us behind. We were able to limp the truck home to Michigan. Then we had to get into a body shop. So we were home in Michigan longer than we thought. We wanted to have a little more travel time to get down, because what we had in Atlanta was we had a training class scheduled. So I had people flying in from other countries even to come take some training. So we had to get there. We were on a schedule. And so finally we got the truck out of the shop. We're heading back to Georgia. And I've since learned that if you're on the highway and you pass like 60 power line trucks all in a convoy, that's not a good sign.
You're right about that. Now, Mike.
We saw that, and I'm like, okay, what's that all about? Found out about the ice storm, picked up our pace to get into town before the ice storm hit. And then so we were in a hotel when the ice storm came over. Some students were there already. Some had not made it in. So I ended up doing the class twice, once when people were there and then once when the other people showed up. So yeah, that was a pretty traumatic week and a half or so there.
Now, if I remember reading correctly, you were at 124 different destinations throughout your 8-year period. Is that correct?
Well, that's the number that made it into the book. We were in more than that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Basically, I looked through my photos and as I thought back about our travels, where I could find a location where there was a good story to tell and I had good pictures to run the book, that's what made it into the book. I have other places where I've got great pictures but no real great story, or vice versa.
That's terrific. Wow. So what would you say is your favorite destination that you went to throughout your travels?
Oh, all of them.
All of them?
Yeah,
I can understand that. Yeah, why each destination probably has its own story to tell.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one that I like. There's a lot of favorites because we've got such a beautiful country, and I don't know if people understand the not just the beauty but the diversity of beauty in this country. From Niagara Falls to Yosemite to Big Bend. There's the types of beauty is just astounding. But what I enjoyed especially, there were certain places where we found where science couldn't explain something. And I love it when science can't explain everything. I love feeling like, okay, we don't have this whole world figured out yet. So in Pennsylvania, there's a spot called the Ringing Rocks. And it's near a place called Upper Black Eddy, Pennsylvania. So it's a field full of, I don't even know why these particular types of rocks are there, but they're like refrigerator to Volkswagen size rocks. They're big rocks. They don't match the geology in that area, so I don't quite know why even they're in that spot. But some of them, you can take a hammer or a tire iron and you hit the rock and it resonates, it rings. And other rocks don't. And they can't explain what makes a ringing rock ring and why the other ones won't ring. But the field has been known about for long enough that you can kind of tell the places where the rocks are beat up more, that's probably the spot that rings. But they've actually staged concerts there. They figured out what notes the different rocks have and figured out songs they could play and staged, I guess, what you call the first rock concert.
Okay. Now, I take it you made a lot of friends along the way, too, didn't you?
Yeah, that was the unexpected thing. I really thought this trip was just going to be kind of our family in the RV doing our own thing, which, my wife and I, we both consider ourselves introverts. I think my kids would too. So we're cool just, hanging on our own. But we met a lot of other families out kind of doing the same thing. The community aspect of traveling was the biggest and best surprise of the whole trip.
Okay. Now, did you were traveling in a fifth wheel, correct?
Yeah, we had, over the course of our 8 years, we had 2 fifth wheels, and then when the kids were off on their own, we had downsized to a Class B.
Okay, so with yourself, your wife, and 2 kids, did you ever feel crammed in there throughout an 8-year period?
Not really. It was kind of a magical thing. So our second RV was the bigger one that we were in the longest. That was a 34-foot bunkhouse. So you got 4 adult-sized bodies in 80 square feet or whatever that works out to be, sharing a bathroom. But I think because you've always got the campground, you've got the outdoors just 3 steps away. If someone was having a bad day or just needed to be apart, they could just go off for a walk. And the campgrounds are still a pretty safe environment. I never worried about the kids at that point. We could use the campground facilities for bathrooms and showers to kind of alleviate that traffic in the trailer. So I remember very, very few times where we even physically bumped into each other. It just worked out.
Okay. Now, what advice would you give to anybody who wanted to take the same route that you took to live their life on the road?
Well, by all means, if you can do it, do it. The experiences we had, I told my kids, you're probably not going to understand or appreciate what you've got to do until you're about 30. So when you're about 30, give me a phone call and we'll talk about it at that point. But yeah, for new families, what's nice is COVID has really changed the work environment. So there's a lot more remote workers out there now, a lot more remote jobs. Historically, that's been the sticking point for a lot of families that want to do this, is how do I make money while I do this? So the job market is much better in that regard. And then now it's been long enough that there are actually organizations. There's Full-Time Families is an organization, like a membership deal, where they've got resources and they'll do meetups and kind of give you any support that you need while you're figuring it out. So the environment and the market has really improved even since we were out, in support mechanisms for people that want to make that transition.
Did you ever find internet connectivity to be a challenge?
Yes, by all means. I think that's probably improved somewhat with technology, but we did as much as we could to have gear on board. So initially I had invested in a system that would pick up campground Wi-Fi and repeat it into the trailer. I also had external antennas and amplifiers for cell-based internet. We quickly realized that campground Wi-Fi wasn't even worth worrying about generally. If it's available, it wasn't working. Or if it worked, it wasn't fast enough. So we became more self-sufficient with the cell-based approach. But the key with that is you got to kind of reshop for gear and reshop for plans at least every year, because it's such a fast-moving market. But yeah, we had challenges. There were places like in the book I talked about our Yosemite visit. We had to swap campgrounds in Yosemite because the first one we went to, there was no cell service at and there was no Wi-Fi at, and we had understood that there would be both of those when we got there. But because neither was available, we had to move because I couldn't keep working.
Yeah, I can understand if you're going to be working on the road. Yeah, that's going to be, especially in this day and age, one of the most important things to have handy. So I'm probably going to be shopping around myself here shortly because I've got a fantastic antenna system with this new RV that I've got, and I was able to pull in just here being based outside of Atlanta, I was able to pull in like 96 channels. And, of course, if you don't have your internet, you're not going to have your Netflix and your YouTube and YouTube TV and things like that. But, well, the way I look at it for the type of camping that I'm going to be doing, I want to get out there and enjoy and hopefully do it without any rain, without any thunderstorms or having my equipment ruined, as I've had so many times in the past. But, hey, camping is something, it's, we hold it close to our heart. For people who never camped before in their life, they just will never understand it.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, go ahead.
I was going to say, both, my wife and I both grew up camping. They grew up in a pop-up camper, so I didn't have to initiate her into the camping lifestyle in order to be able to do this trip. Okay.
Well, Mike, I'll tell you, it's a great pleasure talking with you. I'm glad to have you on the program. And this new book that's out, Driven to Wonder, 8 Years in an RV with 2 Kids, is available for sale right now. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can pick up a copy of your book?
Amazon is the best place to go. It's available there in both print and Kindle versions.
Yes, and I would encourage anybody who is into camping and anybody who would even consider the thought of taking on a full-time RV adventure to pick up a copy of this book. It's wonderful. A lot of great information, 333 pages, very vivid photographs. And I can tell you put a lot of time and effort into this book. Michael, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being on Happy Camper Radio. Always a pleasure to talk to new folks just like yourself. And who knows, maybe one of these days we'll cross paths out there in a campground.
Yeah, appreciate being here. Yeah, we're certainly looking forward to getting out and doing some more camping.
Thank you for being here, Michael. Well, Daniel, I enjoyed talking with him. I'll tell you what, that's a remarkable journey.
That's crazy. That's the dream right there.
I'll tell you, I just wish, of course, I'm going on 66 years old right now. You never say never. I mean,
right.
But now that I got that RV, you never know where my travels are going to take me. But, wow, just a dream of just working and living on the road and visiting a lot of different places. I'll tell you what, it's, you just got to admire a guy like that. Yeah. And, my hat's off to him and his family for doing it for 8 solid years. And folks, and again, if you want to go ahead and get a copy of Michael's book, it's called Driven to Wonder, 8 Years in an RV with 2 Kids. It's available right now on Amazon. I encourage you to go ahead and get this book and read it. A lot of fabulous pictures in it. Daniel, it's time now for our featured campground of the week right here on the Happy Camper Radio Show.
Happy Camper Radio. Happy Camper Radio.
Daniel, let's go to the state of neighboring North Carolina.
Yes.
Okay, yes. We have the Longwood Park Campground. It is part of the John H. Kerr Dam and Reservoir. And Longwood Park is located on the reservoir, a 50,000-acre lake that extends 39 miles up the wooded, cove-studded shorelines of the Roanoke River in Virginia and North Carolina. Kerr Reservoir is also known as Bugs Island Lake. The facility is the visitors to the well, let me try that again, Daniel. I'm getting all excited. I just might go here.
There you go. Hey, you got the RV. Hook it up.
Yeah. Visitors to the Longwood Park will enjoy the lakeside view. There's 66 sites for tents and RVs, and amenities like hot showers, flush toilets, and a dump station provide a comfortable camping experience. A swimming beach and a picnic shelter make the campground ideal for families. And I love family camping, Daniel.
Oh, yeah.
Family-style camping. The greatest people in the world you're going to meet is going to be at a campground. But this is part of recreation.gov. And as always, I encourage you, if you're going to be camping, whether it's a tent camping, RV camping, get yourself an account at recreation.gov. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. You'll be surprised at how easy the reservation process is. And one of the things I like about recreation.gov, Daniel, is the fact when you reserve your site, in most cases, you're going to find a picture of your site.
Yep.
So you know exactly what you're going to be getting into when you back that RV in or when you pull your car in and set up your tent.
Yep.
Myself, personally, I love the lakeside view.
Oh, definitely.
I love the partial shaded lakeside view. And that's going to be my first stop when I go camping in about another week from now.
Yeah.
Okay? But we'll be talking about that. This is a great campground if you happen to be passing through North Carolina or plan on making a reservation somewhere in North Carolina. You may want to consider the Longwood Park Campground. It is our featured campground of the week on the Happy Camper Radio Show.
Skip and Daniel. HappyCamperRadio.com.
And if you have a campground you'd like for us to feature on the program, get in touch with me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at HappyCamperRadio.com, or this fellow right here,
Daniel at HappyCamperRadio.com.
Be sure to include a link to the campground website. And that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Happy Camper Radio Show. Always a pleasure to have you along. And Daniel,
Yes, sir.
the weather's nice today, the 31st nice day we've had in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
I might get out there and mow grass, just
I was thinking about
start
that.
dreaming about my next trip. Remember, friends, every pet deserves a loving home. I want you to do exactly as I did. Visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. You can find us on the web 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper. Daniel is always a happy camper.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And folks, we're going to make a happy camper out of you. That I promise. Talk to you again soon. This is Happy Camper Radio.